In this video, I'm going to be explaining the gateway process. This is a government document, how you can change your life with the gateway process and tap into altered states of consciousness. Welcome back to another video. I'm Maximilian. I help entrepreneurs reprogram their mind, write their lives for happiness, success, abundance, confidence, you name it, I do it, and success. And this video is just explaining what has been said by many people for years. The reason I personally don't agree with everything that the government's saying, but some people need the authority figure to say that it's true in order for them to believe it. So I want to give in all different ways so I can account to as many different audiences as possible. Don't get me wrong, not everyone's going to like me, and I completely respect that, and that's not I don't expect anything different. But this is just what's been proven by the gateway process by a company called the Monroe Institute, and they basically studied the gateway process and how you can tap into old states of consciousness and reach Hemisync and really tap into your brain to expand your consciousness, essentially. So, starting first things first, there's three different things that they used, that they studied. Hypnosis, which is something that I do. If you want hypnosis, let me know. I'll explain more about hypnosis in this video and you can see if it's for you or not. Most likely it is. Everyone can be hypnotized, blah, blah. There's another video explaining that. So, hypnosis, biofeedback, and transcendental meditation. Why are these all so powerful? Because you're tapping in to these still states of mind that are altering your consciousness. So, what is hypnosis? Very, 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 very briefly. Your brain is made up of two hemispheres, the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. The left hemisphere is the analytical, the critical, it works with cogs. Imagine it like cogs. It works on logic. Whereas the right side of the brain is the more creative, the more free. And you can look at this with masculine and feminine energy. That doesn't mean having feminine energy means you're a woman or having masculine energy means you're a man. It's just the type of energy. This is more going into the spiritual side of things right now. So in order to get into hypnosis, you must distract the critical factor, which is the left side, the logical thinking side. And the way that I can explain this, the greatest metaphor I can use, is imagine the left side is like a guard. It has a guard, and the guard is a dog. You have a biscuit, which is the hypnotic word, the hypnotic process. You throw that biscuit, you distract the guard, and you wander into the subconscious mind, which is the creative side. And just as we already know, if you've seen my videos before, 95% of our life is lived through the subconscious, whereas 5% is lived through the conscious, which is the analytical mind. So how can we change our life? Going into the subconscious. When you go into the subconscious, that's where all of your problems will lie, that's where all of your programs will sit, and that's where you can make these changes and these dramatic shifts just in the subconscious alone. Because if you put all the effort into working on your subconscious, you're going to get much more of an effect than if you just work on your conscious, because you've got 95% worth of play here or 5% in the conscious. It makes sense to hit the bigger target, essentially. So with hypnosis, all you're doing is going into a very focused state of concentration. So you have been you have been hypnotized before in your life. People that say they haven't, they just aren't aware of when they've been hypnotized. When you read a good book, you are hypnotized to the book. When you watch a good film, you are hypnotized to the film. And the greatest example that I always use, I first watched Iron Man, never seen it before in my life. When I first watched it, which was literally last year, maybe last year, yeah, end of last year, I loved it, absolutely fell in love with it. I was so hypnotized to it that the suggestions were, you need to be like Iron Man, because I'm watching it and I'm like, I like how he is, I like what he's doing and things like that. So when I came across that, I ended up shaving my beard like it. Sounds silly. If I have a picture, I will put it up. I may not have a picture though. But when I shaved my beard to it, that was the suggestion playing in my head. Now I didn't allow that suggestion to carry on, and the way suggestions work, imagine it like a seed. You're watering a seed in the garden, and eventually over time that seed starts to grow. Years upon years upon years, that seed can then die, then it can regrow itself, just like massive trees, because they understand the process of watering, they understand the process of getting the sunlight, and it's just nature, it's just how it works. So for a suggestion to stay working, or to continue to work through your life, you must first manually water it every single day. Hypnosis allows you to tap into what the problems are, allows you to clear those problems. I personally like to clear traumas with people, cleared all my traumas and cleared many traumas for other people, help them become confident, help myself become confident, and really just change their lives in general. So the second one is transcendental meditation. Now what is transcendental meditation? It's just very deep focused states of meditation. Very similar to hypnosis, you're just doing it more on your own rather than having someone guide you through the process. So I recommend doing them all together. Now I'm not massive on deep transcendental meditation. I meditate every single day, but I've never really dug deep into transcendental meditation, which I probably will now because I understand how powerful this process is, and it's very similar to self-hypnosis anyway. It is a form of non-religious relaxation basically, and the goal with it is to get your brain waves to a state of between 4 and 7 hertz cycles per second. So if we know the brain waves, we've got beta, which is waking consciousness, alpha, which is a relaxed state, theta, which is deep meditation, hypnosis, delta, which is deep sleep, and then gamma, which is heightened awareness. And theoretically, what we're going into in the gateway process, you want to get to that state of gamma. When you hit that state of gamma, that is the altered consciousness, that is the heightened perception, that is the heightened awareness, which is allowing you to tap into these other realms, these other dimensions, allowing you to completely reenact and change your life any way that you choose. And the third one is biofeedback. Essentially, you're hacking your system. You're taking over the control of your physical body. And rather than suppressing or bypassing the left hemisphere, biofeedback actually teaches us to visualize the result and then recognize the feeling that it will give us. So essentially, adding these all three together, you're going to get the most powerful process. And that's why it's in the gateway process. But what you're doing is, you're visualizing the result, and then you're knowing what it feels like to have that result. When you know what it feels like to have that result, this is where the law of attraction kicks in, or what some people may just call the RAS, reticular activating system, the law of attraction, whatever it is. I prefer the law of attraction. It works. It's worked for me for my whole life, ever since I've understood it. And what you're doing is, when you're feeling and you're being that state, you no longer need it, which you're basically coming from a state of I have rather than I lack. Saying I want this is saying I don't have this. So what you're doing is you're saying, I am already this, why should I need it? Just like I know that the sun's going to come up tomorrow, I don't have to think about it, I don't have to manifest it because I know it's going to happen. When you get to that level of awareness with your manifestations, they're there. It's just you, who you are. So the Monroe Institute studies were basically, there were three tapes that they were using that were allowing people to go into these deeper states, specifically with type of beats. I will be explaining the type of beats, how they work and stuff like that. But basically what they were allowing you to do was have a much more focused intention and concentration on the specific thing that you're doing. For example, the transcendental meditation, you're sitting in yourself, you're sitting in that quiet mind, and the analogy that they used was the lamp versus the laser. A lamp can light up a whole room. It can only light up so far. But a laser can go very far. Now, I'm a Zen person, I would never snipe someone. But if I was about to snipe someone, I would much rather have a laser pointer on my gun than a light bulb. One, because the light bulb would give me away, and two, the laser pointer would allow me to know exactly where I'm going to shoot. So what it's saying is basically being laser focused on that specific thing allows it to be drawn into your life. Being laser focused on relaxation, rather than just lightly lamp focused, if you want to use that term, you're much more likely to get into those states because you're more intentional of where you're going. And when you're being more intentional, you're gonna allow your brain to get into Hemisync. Now, what is Hemisync? Hemisync is just where you've got both sides of your brain working together in coherence. And when they work together, this is where it allows greater states of consciousness to manifest themselves to you. And when you're actually in Hemisync, your vibrational frequency aligns to that of the universe. So when they say, in order to live a happy life, you must be on a vibrational frequency of happiness. In order to live a peaceful life, you must be on that vibrational alignment of still and peaceful. So in order to manifest your desires, in order to step into the universe, in order to step into heightened awareness, you must increase your energy to that of a higher state of vibration or a higher vibrational being, which you have the power to do within your mind. That's why I love this so much, because we have that power within us to sit down, create these states of consciousness within our mind, and then walk through our lives through time space, which I will be getting into in a minute, and allow us to really stand from a different point. We see the world in 3D. We live in a 4-dimensional world. I will go into this in a second, but we see the world in 3D. We can only see what we can perceive, and life is what you perceive. What is reality? Reality is whatever you perceive reality to be. If your reality is, life is awful, everything bad happens to me, life is useless, I am useless, your life is going to manifest itself in that way. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand it's not beneficial to hear that when you're in that state of mind, but we have that ability to change ourselves. The one thing we do have is free will, to a degree. Obviously, coronavirus, not going to get into it, but other than them keeping you in a state of fear, they're taking away your free will. You have that free will to choose, am I going to be a victim to this, or am I going to be accustomed to be able to create whatever it is that I want, regardless of what your situation is right now. So the beats that they use on their specific tapes are binaural beats. Now, what are binaural beats? You've probably heard them before. When I first heard of them, I remember my mum sent me a binaural beat vision board, an online vision board. And it was just, when I heard it, she was like, this is what make you rich. I was like, well, then I will do that, because all I wanted was money. Obviously she heard about it and she understood it to a degree. And basically what they do is, the way binaural beats work, you must use headphones. Reason being is you've got one specific tone going in one ear, one specific going in the other ear, different type of frequencies. And the way the binaural beat works, it cancels out each frequency and it gives you the difference. It's about finding correct binaural beats. They must be between a specific number of hertz, roughly, like we said, between 4 and 7. If you look at this image now, you'll see the power of the brainwave states that you want to be in. Ideally, for this to work, you want to be in that state of theta, that deep meditative state. We want to get to gamma. That's where the mystical happens. That's where the crazy stuff happens. And just as Joe Dispenza says in Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, Becoming Supernatural, it's about reaching that heightened state of gamma, which will allow those pops to happen where you can truly step out of the matrix and move into a heightened state of awareness, which allows you to perceive things again from a completely different standpoint. And one of the things they came to realize was, it's not the brain that produces consciousness, it's the consciousness that produces the perception of the brain. So our consciousness, when people say mind, they say brain. That's what a lot of people perceive it to be. That's exactly what I thought it was. When we figure out we are consciousness, and we can move our intention to that of, our brain, to that of our toes, to that of our nose, easily and freely whenever we choose, our consciousness is around us. Now, consciousness does not die with the body. Consciousness is the universal energy. So consciousness is basically there, always, forever. All the memories will always be stored. This is where you can go back into past lives, and this is even where you can move into things like future lives and future selves and different dimensions and stuff like this when you reach that level of Hemisync. And what they figured out, the gateway process actually did succeed in expanding and altering human consciousness. So if we have that ability, if it's been done once, it's possible to do it again. Fact, bold facts. I'm a true believer, and I'm just a massive optimist, that anything's possible. Anything within us is humanly possible. I believe it. People said they wanted to fly. The Wright brothers made planes. That's not us flapping our wings and flying, but that's still us flying. People said they wanted to travel through time. You can visualize and go back to these states. In this, I'm going to be explaining why time and space, there's a big realization that you're going to have when you watch this video. I hope you're learning something. So if you already learned something, comment down below what you think you've learned and what questions you may have, or also what you want me to explain in further depth. But I'm going to carry on and really dig deeper. So a guy called Karl Pribram, I may be saying that slightly wrong, but search it up, Pribram, Karl, Karl, and what he figured out was paranormal and transcendental experiences are not supernatural. They are part of nature. So we actually have the ability to tap into them. And this is where you see kids that have imaginary friends. They most likely do have a genuine imaginary friend. A lot of these things that pop up within children, they haven't been programmed enough to say, you're being stupid, you're being this, you're being that. So they are thinking with a higher state of consciousness. They are actually in a lower brainwave state. They don't have that beta state yet, but they're in these theta alpha waves all the time, which allows them to really think bigger. They can sit in a box and truly think they're in a spaceship. How many adults can truly do that right now? You have to get into a very playful mood to do that. So moving into the time-space dimension, what is time-space? What is space-time? This is a big thing that blew my mind when I really understood this, and I was like, interesting. And if you watch the film Interstellar, you can really understand how time-space works. Now, in this, where we are, this plane, this dimension, time and space have to work together for it to work. Time is one-dimensional, space is three-dimensional, which creates a four-dimensional place. Time is basically a measurement of energy or force in motion, just a measurement of change. Space is infinite. It doesn't actually have a beginning, an end, or a location. This is not the start of space. This is not the start of space. This is not the start of space. Where you are right now watching this video is not the start of space. There's no start, there's no end. And what we are looking out into the universe, realistically, is probably billions of years old. What we're looking at right now. These stars that are blowing up are billions, that happened billions of years ago. But for it to reach us, our time is moving in a different way. Now, if you watch the film Interstellar, you see where Matthew McConaughey, I completely forget the name of the character he plays, he goes into space, goes through a wormhole, goes into a portal, and then basically sits in a different dimension. Now, when he goes into this space, he was there for 2 hours, 3 hours maximum. When he came back, everyone else had aged over 60 years because the time was different in that place. So this universe where we are right now, time is relative. And basically, without time, we can't perceive space, and without space, we can't perceive time. I will make another video on time and space very soon. I want to understand it a lot more before I dive too deep into it, but this is sort of what I've figured out from some of my own research as well as reading into this stuff as well. So in order to enter a different dimension, we must raise our vibrational state, our brainwaves. Now, when they are moving at such a rapid rate, when you view it on an oscilloscope, it looks like the line is still. And if you look at, for example, gamma, no, if for example you look at beta, it's very, very much like that. Ideally, you want to get to that state which is gamma, which is just like, woo, and it's a very focused, the only way you can spell it is a focused state of concentration. Your brainwaves are so aware right now. Your body's asleep, but your mind is alive. And that's essentially where you're getting your brain to. You're disconnecting from the here and now, and you're moving into that place of no time, no space. No, you're moving into the nothingness. You're moving into the universal energy. In quantum mechanics, it basically shows us that energy will oscillate through a specific range. Now, this is something that I found brilliant, and I love the idea of it. It's called clicking in and clicking out. Literally clicking out of the matrix, clicking out of consciousness, clicking out of this dimension. When your energy is moving in those states, you are in this dimension. You are. That's just a fact. So, looking at this example, can you see that? This is the place of clicking in and the place of clicking out. When you click outside this range, that is the infinite. That is the human conscious. That is the, no, not the human consciousness. That is the universal energy, the universal consciousness. Universal, not universal. And stating this right here, Bentov said quantum mechanics tells us that when we go below Planck's, which is the founder of quantum physics, Max Planck, good name for a guy, the distance, which is 10 to the power of minus 33, we enter in effect a new world. Essentially, you're breaking out of the matrix, what is known as the matrix, what is known as you in your reality, your simulation, allowing you to live in your life. You're clicking out of that. If you can do this enough times, you can make it habitual, and you can literally click out, in and out, as and when you please. And when you're clicking out, what you're doing is you're separating your consciousness from your body. You're moving away, going from something to nothing, going from some time to no time, going from somewhere to nowhere, going from somewhere, nowhere to everywhere. This is where it starts to get different. This is where it starts to get crazy. And again, in Joe Dispenza's books, he really simplifies this to such a great level, which is going from something to nothing to everything. Because then you're universal consciousness. When you're universal consciousness, you are everything. You are universe. If you believe in God, you are God. God is within you. I believe in universal power. I believe in universal energy. And I believe that universe is within me. When I'm sitting from that standpoint, that's where you start to raise your vibration, start to attract things into your life that is on a vibrational frequency of what you are. Now, Dr. John Gliedman, I may be saying it slightly wrong, he basically came up and came to the conclusion that when you shoot particles, once they've collided, you can then shoot them to opposite ends, and they act in like a Siamese twin way. What happens to one happens to the other once they've interacted once before. And this is where the subatomic particles act in speeds faster than light. Now, the speed of light is known to be the fastest thing ever. You shine a light, it's there. It seemed to act exactly the same. Now, the study that was done, and the study they've done in this, they shot particles away. Now, I've also read in the quantum physics world, from a few of the things that I've read, a few of the videos I've watched, and the things that I've understood, they shot protons. Once they collided, they then shot them to opposite ends of the universe, or as far as they believe they could get them. What they did to one happened exactly the same to the other, regardless of what it was. When one disappeared, the other one disappeared at the exact same time. There was no stall, there was no buffer, it just happened, it just did it. So what they're saying is, what's happening here is happening there. What's happening in your past is happening in your future, is happening now. You as that universal energy, when you tap into the subatomic world, which is these altered states of consciousness, you're allowing yourself to tap into your past. You're allowing yourself to tap into your future, because your future is now, your past is now, your present is now. Everything is now. Everything that's happened, you're always in the present state. When it was the past, it was the present. When it's the present, it's still the present. When it's the future, it is the present moment, because it's not the future, you are present. And again, this doesn't make much sense, but they say when you think you understand quantum physics, you don't actually understand it. Now, this was said by quantum physicists. I'm not a quantum physicist, I'm just reading this as sort of like a hobby of mine. I suppose I'm a bit of a nerd now. I love it, I love this stuff. But what they said was, when you think you understand it, you don't really understand it. Now, they say this from a level, they do understand quantum physics. They're not like stupid. They're not like, oh, I'm just making this up. But they don't really know, because there's always new discoveries coming out about quantum physics that doesn't really make sense. What happens in the subatomic world isn't normal to the bigger world, the world we live in, the universe we live in right now. And essentially, with this study that was done with the particles, the protons that were shot out, it basically voids the theory of Einstein's theory of relativity only outside the time and space. So this universe, time and space, we live in the 4D world, relativity is real. I'm not at all saying that that's not the truth, because it is. We grow up, we die. That's part of life. Things have an end. But outside of this consciousness, there isn't an end. It's universal. It's everywhere, it's nowhere, it's somewhere, it's everywhere, it's here. Again, it's one of those things that doesn't make too much sense until you really dive deep into it, and you have to understand all these different steps and levels to make sense in your mind, and it will always make sense in different types of ways. So this is where quantum physics, quantum mechanics really just blows your mind, because it's like, what? Huh? How? Why? When? It doesn't really make much sense, but it's really interesting when you start to dig into it. And when you really move out of this illusion of time and space, not illusion, here it's work, like I say, it's relative here, but when you move out of this consciousness, you move out of this energy and you move into universal energy, what you're doing is, you're leaving time and space behind. So when you're having these out-of-body experiences, you're actually speeding up your process of altering your own consciousness. And basically what happens when reality ends, your consciousness, along with your memories in your consciousness, moves into the absolute. The absolute being universal, the absolute being the nothingness, the everythingness, just out there. The universal energy. When you die, your consciousness goes with it. It just goes. It just moves to the absolute. That's what they put it in here. And now that your memory is stored in this absolute, this is where you can access these past lives. You can access things that you've thought before, and this is where the greatest video I watched was when it was on Instagram. If I can find a link to it, I will put it in the description of this video, just so you can understand it, because when it made so much sense, where it was like, we can communicate from these higher planes of consciousness, but down here in time space, our consciousness is different. So we have the ability to access this if we choose to. Now, the key with this is allowing yourself to get to that point, that state of mind where you truly are doing this repetitively. If you want to work out your arms, you want to get bigger muscles, you must do it repetitively. You want to reach these altered states of consciousness, you must do it repetitively. There's no magic pill, there's no magic button that you can press that will just take you out of your body into these altered states of consciousness. This must be done consciously by yourself in order to reach these levels of altered consciousness, these altered states. You have that ability to do that. Anyone has that ability to do that. We all have that power within us, that universal energy to bring ourselves out in order to reach that absolute, reach that universal energy, raise our vibration in order to live from those states of love. Now, that really explains the whole process and everything that I've read. And what I highly recommend you read this, you go through it. This is what I've taken away from it. This is what's really impacted me. And I personally think there's a lot of great information in here. Now, this was done back in 1983. That's nearly 40 years. Imagine what they're doing now, and this stuff is being proven by science now, which is what I love. The new world science is now proving what was once said to be impossible. This is why I'm such an optimist, because I truly believe anything is possible. You want to reach these altered states of consciousness, you can do that. You have that ability. And what I want this to make you understand, or help you understand, is that you have that ability to make that change. Now, this may be beneficial for you to jump into things like hypnosis. This is beneficial for you to jump into meditation, biofeedback. I personally do hypnotize people. That's what I do for a living. That's how I help people. That's how I've completely reenacted and changed my life completely, 100%. And many other people in the process. So if you want to reach these heightened states of awareness, send me a message and let's really dig deep into your goals, where you want to achieve, and help you get to these altered states. You have that ability to do that. All that's stopping you right now is this message between you and me. Again, putting that out into the universe, putting that out into infinite intelligence, infinite consciousness, universal energy, that's already there. The only thing that's not being done is the action to take it, to make it work. So move into that state of action, move into that state of universal energy. And we need to raise this vibration to that of love. You notice to see that these things that are going on in the world right now, the pandemic, all the coronavirus, all that kind of stuff, all this stuff that's coming out about Hollywood, won't go into that right now. Maybe we'll do another video about that. There's a lot of bad energy out there. People like Joe Dispenza, people that I watch, people that I absolutely adore their content, what they're producing, not just video wise, but what they're producing for the world. They're raising the vibrational frequency of the world. When the vibrational frequency of the world is being raised, we are going to see a dramatic increase of joy, a dramatic increase of happiness. But first we have to hit our rock bottoms. Now, you don't have to physically hit your rock bottom, but if you allow yourself to hit a rock bottom, this can be in hypnosis. This is why I love hypnosis, because you can get to that space to understand it, to then take yourself out of it and say, this is where I need to change. So if you have any questions, send me a message. We'll be more than happy to help you. I hope this video has really given you something of benefit. So yeah, if it has, drop a like, drop a comment, drop a follow, drop a subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. And I really hope that everything that I've given you today has benefited you. Have an amazing day. Keep smiling, keep spreading love, kindness, and so much positivity.